The treacherous Japanese attack on Hawaii. The homes of Waikiki, famous in song, are burning fiercely from the bombs dropped by those planes. The whole world knows now how Japan assaulted the American naval base without warning, without a declaration of war, and while her envoys were actually negotiating in Washington.
There are certain dates we must always note when they come around every year, but one such as December 7th need not be talked about only on that day, especially when the memories are still fresh in the mind of one who saw it all unfold right in her own backyard. Her website is aptly titled PearlHarborChild.com, and from her backyard she saw the events of that day in infamy unfold. She's determined Americans in the world keep the memories fresh in the hope something like it never happens again. Let's welcome Dorinda Nicholson to MidPoint. Dorinda, thank you so much for being here.
I appreciate the invitation to talk about Pearl Harbor.
It's something that I always believe, and I always have, that we need to keep at the forefront of our thinking. And I would imagine that still to this day the memories have got to be fresh, because you looked right over the bay, apparently, and you saw the attack happening on Battleship Row, correct?
I did. Our family lived on a peninsula that juts into the harbor, and so Battleship Row was close to us. On the other side of Ford Island is the battleship Utah, which was being used as a target ship, and we could see it more clearly because of that was the closest ship to us from the peninsula. But when we had to leave our house and go up into the sugarcane fields, then we had an overhead view of the whole harbor.
Did you cry?
No. I didn't completely understand what was happening. I was 6 years old, and we could see our parents were quite worried, and my dad kept twisting the dial on the radio, the car radio, to try to get information. And the kids from our area just ran and played through the sugarcane fields.
Why is it important, and I know that sounds like a foolish question, but people will ask this, why is it so important that we keep that memory as fresh as we possibly can?
Well, I like the quote that trying to see if I could even find it. The quote from Eleanor Roosevelt, that she was saying, here I have found it. We have to remember that in the future we will want to keep before our children what this war was really like. It is so easy to forget, and then for the younger generation, the hardships, the horror of war, and the sorrow will fade from their consciousness.
Is that the thing that we need to remember specifically, is just, unfortunately, we have to remember that horror?
And it was a time that we literally were under attack. A surprise, an attack which caught us asleep, and also any time that our boys give their lives for our country, we must never forget.
You know, unfortunately, we are out of time, and it is such a short time because we're following some developing news here today as well. But I do want to point out a couple things. First of all, the book is called Pearl Harbor Child, a child's view of Pearl Harbor from attack to peace. And it is a must-read for people of any age. And Dorinda, I tell you what, because of the time we have here, I'd like to make sure that we touch base again sometime soon, not wait until December 7th of next year. I want to point out your website as well to make sure that people go to your website and make sure that they look it up there and read a little bit more about it. But we thank you for basically doing what you can to keep this memory alive, because it is so important that Americans and people around the world remember. Thanks so much for your time.
You're most welcome. Thank you.
Take care. We're back to Span the Globe after a short break, focusing on the sham ceasefire and why we should all panic immediately, or so some would immediately claim, by just looking to the heavens. Where's Bruce Willis when you need him? We're coming back on MidPoint.